Hey Kitaroonies. So I don't think I'm alone in being terrified of death. Knowing that one day I'll just stop existing forever freaks me out. But something I'm more afraid of than my own death is the deaths of people I love. It's not exactly comforting knowing that people I cherish will die one day. I find that terrifying, but really that's just the ugly truth. Death is inescapable. That statement is especially true for the lead singer of Eels, Mark Oliver Everett, who in 1998 became the only surviving member of his family. Obviously, it was a difficult time for Everett, but during this time he was able to channel his grief into his magnum opus, Electro-Shock Blues. Throughout its 16 songs, the album tells of his sister Elizabeth's mental health struggles that eventually led to her suicide, his mother suffering from cancer, and his strained relationship with his father prior to his fatal heart attack. It's definitely one of the darkest and most fascinating albums I've ever heard, and yet I don't see many people talking about it. So, yeah, we're talking about it. But first, I think I should give an introduction to Eels.
She will always be the only thing comes between me and the awful sting.
Eels is the brainchild of singer-slash-multi-instrumentalist Mark Oliver Everett, also known as E, and became the vessel for its distinct combination of dark but occasionally humorous lyrics and its pleasant and quirky instrumentation. This formula was showcased all throughout the band's 1996 debut album, Beautiful Freak. Beautiful Freak is a decent debut. If you're a fan of eccentric hard-on-sleeve indie pop, you'll probably find a lot to enjoy about it. There's some songs on this album that I really like My Beloved Monster, Flower, and my favorite on the album, Manchild. The lead single, Novocaine for the Soul, became an international hit, allowing the album to give Eels their first taste of commercial and critical attention. Since then, E garnered a reputation for his honest and relatable music, but none of his albums hold a candle to his sophomore release. But how exactly did we get to that point? Well, as the title of this video would suggest, grief. Without further ado, let's dive into Electro-Shock Blues, and its truly heartbreaking depictions of grief. We open with Elizabeth on the bathroom floor, which seems to be about E's sister's thoughts before dying by suicide in 1996.
Laying on the bathroom floor, kitty licks my cheek once more.
Elizabeth Everett is the subject of a large portion of the album. In fact, this track, My Descent to Madness, 3-Speed, the title track, and Climb to the Moon were not only all written about her depression and experiences being placed in a psych ward for her schizophrenia, but they were also all written from her perspective, and many of the lyrics are based on her diary entries. The lyrics of Bathroom Floor segue us into the next track, Going to Your Funeral Part 1, which is about, well, it's kind of self-explanatory, isn't it?
Going to your funeral now and feeling I could scream. Everything goes away.
The track shows E at Elizabeth's funeral, both reminiscing about the past and being devastated by her death. Despite the dark themes, the song boasts a groovy bass line and swingy rhythm that makes it relatively catchy. This juxtaposition of playful music and emotional lyrics will become a very common occurrence as the album progresses. E's father, Hugh Everett III, is first mentioned on the track Cancer for the Cure.
Father knows best about suicide and smack.
He was a brilliant physicist known for the many worlds theory, who died from a heart attack at the age of 51. E was never very close to his father, a fact that is shown in the tracks inspired by him on Electro-Shock Blues. They are probably the most grating and bitter moments on the album. The songs about Hugh Everett are some of my least favorites of the album, but they're obviously still significant. A few tracks later, we get the emotional climax of the album, the title track. After a string of mostly light-sounding songs, the title track reminds us of the truly devastating nature of the album, with its cold distorted pianos and haunting vocals delivering some absolutely soul-crushing lyrics.
Another day, not another day.
Despite how depressing it is, it's a beautiful song. Or perhaps it's beautiful because of how depressing it is. Wow, I'm like 2 pretentious quips away from becoming an obnoxious pitchfork music critic. Oh well. Once we reach the second half of the album, things change. The anger, misery, denial, and confusion of the first half is replaced by somber acceptance. The 10th and most popular track on Electro-Shock Blues, Last Stop This Town, was inspired by an incident right after Elizabeth's funeral, where E's landlord said that she saw the ghost of a young woman entering his home. E was originally scared by this, but soon found comfort in the idea that it was Elizabeth paying him one last visit. Isn't that lovely?
Why don't we take a ride away up high through the neighborhood, up over the billboards and the factories and smoke?
Last Stop is an absolute earworm that reeks of catharsis. It's definitely a high point of the album. And Farm and Dead of Winter were both written about E's mother, Nancy Everett, who died of lung cancer in 1998. Dead of Winter describes her painful radiation therapy and imminent death, and is especially noteworthy in how defeated it sounds.
And watch it as it disappears and fades into the night.
The penultimate track, The Medication's Wearing Off, offers a more introspective side of this chapter of E's story.
See this watch you gave me, well it still ticks away the days I'm claiming back for me.
It shows that E has succumbed to depression after becoming the only person left in his family, and is struggling to find a direction for his life to go in after the tragedies he has endured. It's my favorite song on the album. The music is gorgeous, nostalgic, and even relaxing, and yet it's still completely soaked in poignancy. Finally, we end things on a hopeful note with P.S. You Rock My World.
I was at a funeral the day I realized I wanted to spend my life with you.
E has recovered from the loss of direction depicted in the previous track. The deaths of his family members have inspired him to appreciate life and live it to the fullest. It's a really cathartic ending and a perfect way to close off this incredible album. Eels' 1998 release is filled with contradictions. It feels like it was written exclusively for E, but at the same time, it's powerful enough to both destroy and comfort just about anyone who listens to it. It usually doesn't present itself as a very serious album, but that slightly humorous and informal delivery doesn't make it feel cynical and irritating, and instead makes it feel more genuine and charming. Most of the tracks have really pleasant instrumentation and melodies, and yet nearly the entire album has a noticeable eeriness and emotional weight. Electro-Shock Blues is genius. Sure, there's some expendable tracks like Hospital Food and It Feels Good, but the high points definitely outweigh the negatives. So yeah, while Eels have a number of decent releases, it's no wonder why Electro-Shock Blues is frequently pointed to as their best, even if it was a commercial failure. If you're currently suffering from the loss of a loved one, well, first of all, I'm terribly sorry to hear that. But also, I highly recommend this album. I hope you'll be able to find comfort in it. For me, Electro-Shock Blues is a masterpiece that I wish more people knew about. I give it a 10 out of 10. Well, that's it. Goodbye.